My name is Brett Heeger, and I am a partner and attorney at law at Gundzik Gundzik Heeger LLP, a law firm based here in Los Angeles. The project that we submitted for the Grunin Prize is the Little Tokyo Community Impact Fund, SPC, which stands for Social Purpose Corporation. So the primary problem that our project was trying to solve was that due to forces like gentrification and just rising rents as real estate prices went up in downtown Los Angeles, the amazing historic Little Tokyo neighborhood was facing some real challenges, especially for their independent and family-owned businesses. There's been a huge amount of community organization down there and advocacy about protecting the space and celebrating the culture. It's a real destination both for the Japanese American community from Southern California and beyond, and it's a real cultural asset for Los Angeles. But with all of these forces in play, and this was even before the COVID pandemic wrought havoc on small businesses, local and independent businesses, including some that had been passed down from generations, were getting pushed out. In addition, there were some secondary goals that we had when we were trying to think about what our project could do. The first was the community really wanted to develop more intergenerational tools for meaningful engagement. So, how can the community as a whole engage both the older generations, the younger generations, and work together to preserve this amazing asset? The community was really interested in thinking creatively about what some alternative sources of capital they could access in order to achieve these goals. There were already a number of really strong and vibrant cultural institutions, and particularly nonprofits. So people felt that there was really a lot of ways that community members who had philanthropic dollars to donate, foundations, there were really ways to get that money into the community towards these common goals. But what was some alternative sources of funds that they could access in order to leverage to solve these problems? In order to solve these problems, we created a real estate fund focused on commercial properties. But part of what made this so special were three key innovations. First, we created the fund as a social purpose corporation, which is a unique entity type here in California that allows us to bake the social purpose, the goal of preserving and supporting Japanese American, and culturally aligned businesses into the DNA of this company. Second, we sought from local California state regulators a special securities offering permit in order to allow for the public sale of shares of this company. We wanted to not only be able to access a broader swath of investors, really be able to engage the whole community in possibly putting their money into this business and into this fund and becoming real estate, real owners and having the rights and opportunities that go with that, but also to be able to really make this a public project. So with the securities offering that we got, we were able to sell at public community events. They were able to open up a stand at the farmer's market, sell shares, just like you would produce or other goods. And so that was a really fun and important tool that the community was excited about. Finally, we deliberately designed the fund to have a unique multi-class board structure so that the board is actually made up of three components. One were sort of the higher net worth investors, the people who are putting in substantial dollar amounts. The second class is the one that really represents the younger generation and those that may not have the budget to put in huge amounts of money, but still want to have a voice and can contribute other things to this group. And then finally, we reserved a special seat for what we call the nonprofit observer, a selected representative of one of the key historical nonprofit institutions already in Little Tokyo, to just sort of speak for that interest, to help further speak for the community in these meetings. When we first got involved in this project, there was this amazing vision of trying to purchase real estate in order to protect Little Tokyo's unique commercial assets, these family-owned businesses. And there was amazing energy. When I first met the steering committee, it was, a dozen people ranging from ages from 17 to over 70. And what we started with was, how do we take this amazing vision and come up with a blueprint for what this is going to look like? And so that really involved diving into the corporate structure, the different entity types, really sort of using those skills that we had developed as a corporate practice to come up with this unique structure that I talked about. Not only what does it mean to become a social purpose corporation, what could that mean for the community and what for the fund, and then what would this multi-class entity structure do, not just as a tool to raise money, but as a tool to protect that vision by making this fund have this second class that is community-based, that is focused on people who are younger, may have less money. How can that make this a stronger and more accountable institution? Once we came up with the blueprint, we actually had to do quite a bit of work on execution. Not only did we have to come up with the traditional tools from articles of incorporation and good bylaws and put together an offering circular, but we really had to advocate in a couple of ways that were unique to this project. First, we had to put together this special securities offering application and really go back and forth with regulators to explain what made this project unique and why it deserved qualification. We were one of the first, and maybe the first, I don't know exactly, but we were one of the first social purpose corporations to be qualified, to get a permit from the state securities regulators to do this type of unique, broad offering. And we really had to work hard with them to help them understand how the origins of this project made it different from so many of the projects that came before them. For example, there were a lot of rules and standards in place by the securities regulators about minimum contributions from the directors and founders. How the founding directors had to put in hundreds of thousands of dollars to show that they personally had stake in the game. But for us, this was a community-oriented project, and tens of thousands of dollars represented a really large stake in the game for our founding directors. They didn't have hundreds of thousands of dollars to contribute. That wasn't where this was coming from. But as a community base, showing that we were looking for a broad but substantial for us contribution was a key point of advocacy that we had to work with the regulators. A really great example, I think, of the type of conversation that we had to have with regulators to show how this project was different. And I'm really pleased that we were able to make progress on that front and get this project launched. The other key piece that I think we really contributed as attorneys was adapting the material, the offering circular, the subscription agreement, things that many of us in the world of securities laws are quite familiar with, adapting that material to this real community investor focused lens. We had to take, any securities lawyer really values and knows the value of good disclosures, of being clear about what this business is and what investors are getting into. Something the SEC, celebrates on its website and promotes, and it's really an important protection for your client. But here, we were going to talk to many investors who had never maybe done a direct investment before, who had never put their money directly into a Main Street business. And so not only did we have to think very carefully and work with our client to make sure all of them understood what they were offering and what they were offering to potential investors, but make sure that the language made sense. I mean, many lawyers' eyes glaze over when they have to read provisions around indemnification. We had to rewrite those sections entirely to turn it into, lay plain English. How do you capture the same protections that a common indemnification provision would in words that non-lawyers are used to using every day? And so that was a really exciting and important piece of advocacy that we had to do and really pushed us as securities lawyers to expand our practice and support this client. One thing that's really exciting about the special qualification by permit process that we took advantage of for this client is that all of the information, it becomes part of the public record here in California. So we submitted our application online, and then anyone can go and look it up and see not only copies of our material, but also, we had to do quite a bit of our advocacy in writing, in letter writing. And so both myself, representatives of the client, we've done our best to sort of promote and be open to other communities and other attorneys who are thinking about community-based projects like this and how they can step up and how we can support those initiatives. But it's been really exciting for us to know that that material is public, that we can share it. And for other attorneys, and even for me working on other projects, to know that I can go, if I see another project in California, that I can go and look at what some of the examples of what they did and how they thought through the issues and how they advocated for their clients. And so that's a really exciting piece of this process as well, really trying to serve as a model and being comfortable that, even some of the speed bumps we ran into and some of the areas where we weren't successful, it's all public record, and hopefully that can be a resource for people.